Hello, and welcome to Health Talk, a show where we dive into common health challenges with local experts to bring you the information that you need to live your best, healthiest life. My name is Dr. Desmar Walks, family physician and local health authority for Austin Travis County. The start of a new year means establishing new schedules, new routines, and an opportunity to incorporate new healthy habits into our families' lives. With back to school upon us, along with the need to update immunization records and checkups, this is the perfect time to think about keeping your kids healthy and well. The transition back to school can be stressful for both children and parents, and as our children head back to classrooms, there's also an increased risk of spreading illnesses, and we all want to do the best to keep our families healthy. To share everything you need to know to keep your kids healthy and well this fall, we have today our special guest, Dr. Jeff Hutchinson. He's a retired Army colonel, a pediatric physician and adolescent medicine specialist with over 30 years of experience caring for children, teens, and young adults. Dr. Hutchison, thank you for your service to our country and to our community's children. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. So let's get started. As parents prepare their children to head back to school, what are the current recommendations for annual checkups and preventative screenings for school-age children?
That's a great question. We'd love to see kids at least once a year. You know, when babies are born, we see them every couple of months. And then as they approach school age, parents think, well, they're doing well. I don't know if they really need to see a doctor. But the reason they do is because they need immunizations, they need eye checks, and sometimes they have aches and pains and rashes and things that just don't show up unless somebody actually asks them a question. So before school starts, we always like to see an annual physical just to give them a once-over.
What are the most important vaccinations children need to have before returning to school, and why are they crucial?
Good question. So there are two waves of immunizations. Kindergarten, there's a big bunch of immunizations that people need, that 4 and 5-year-old shots. And then at 11, there's another set of immunizations that kids need. Tetanus, of course, people have heard of, lockjaw, that's important. The flu shot, we really like people to get a flu shot every year, because if you can stop it from spreading, if you can get a good group of kids immunized, you can keep the whole population healthier. Those are the two big ones. Of course, measles, mumps, and rubella. Your second one is done right before you start kindergarten or preschool. And then before high school or 11, 12-year-olds, we talk about meningitis as their first shot. And then 3 years later, their second shot. Meningitis is really important because it's a disease that's preventable. And if you can prevent someone from getting a brain infection, it's really nothing better that we have to offer. The more controversial one that parents ask about a lot is the HPV. The AAP wised up and realized that instead of talking about the sexual health of young people that parents are ready to talk about, we talk about HPV as a cancer prevention vaccine. And it is. It's really the only one that we have. And that is a 3-shot series that kids really would benefit from before they start even thinking about sexual activity.
And then there's also COVID.
Yes, COVID. COVID, hopefully one day will be combined with the flu shot. But just like influenza, COVID is here to stay. And there's an update coming out this month. So getting another COVID shot is really important for health of our community and individual people. You really don't want to see people with asthma and other conditions suffer with COVID if they don't have to.
Right. And when we look recently, we've seen an increase in the number of measles cases and a real fear about a measles outbreak. So that measles, mumps, and rubella shot's really important. And if it's been missed as a result of not getting in for a screening during the pandemic, this would be a good time to get back on track with that. Yeah. How often should children have eye exams and hearing tests? And what are some of the warning signs that parents might look for if their children are having problems with either hearing or sight?
That's wonderful too, because a lot of times kids will suffer and not tell anybody. So a parent might see their child squinting, or a teacher might notice that the child is not paying attention to the board, or just not really able to focus, and it's not ADHD, it's because they can't see the board. We recommend a vision screening annually. Once they get to 12 and 13, we start spreading it out to every couple of years. And of course, if there's any recognition of trouble seeing, that's when they should be checked by the primary care provider, or then to an optometrist to get their eyes actually checked. If someone has contact lenses, they need those checked every year, that prescription. And with glasses, we talk about every couple of years to make sure the prescription is still good.
Great advice. And so sleep is something that kids have varying schedules during the summertime. We both have kids and they sleep a long time during the summer and stay up really late. So how can parents get their kids back on and establish a healthy sleep schedule? And talk a little bit about what's the best sleep quantity and quality for kids.
Sleep is one of the 4 things I talk to almost every family I see. I talk to them about 4 things: about eating, sleeping, exercising, and dealing with stress. So when it comes to sleep, the recommended amount of time is 7 to 9 hours. You realize the younger someone is, the little bit more sleep they need. Things I emphasize is that if they're taking a nap during the day, no matter what age, if you go more than 30 minutes, so if you're taking a 1 or 2 hour nap, you're messing up your night schedule. So try to cut back on those naps. We talk about sleep hygiene. Hygiene is a word people have heard about for their teeth and their body, but it's also part of for sleep. And important things for that is trying to have a routine. Have the same activities before going to bed to train your body. Now it's time to go to sleep. That includes removing devices. That's a fight sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Kids, and especially the teenagers that I take care of, will say, well, I use my phone to is my alarm, and so I need it. And I say, well, alarms are very cheap. You can buy a wind-up alarm and use that for your alarm. And you really should charge your phone outside your room during bedtime. Other good sleep habits include all media should be turned off about 30 minutes before going to bed. Your room clutter keeps some people awake, so there's an excuse to clean your room, or at least put it all in the closet and close the closet door. Other things that help with sleep hygiene is no caffeine. A lot of times we say at 3 o'clock in the afternoon should be your last dose of caffeine before you go to sleep. Heavy meals are hard for some people. Some people shouldn't exercise before going to bed. Lots of things help you sleep better. And one I like telling people too is about habits that put you to sleep. So doing crossword puzzles, doing actually physical puzzles, doing things that don't take electricity, that help your mind to kind of wind down before you go to bed, is great for going to sleep. And then back to your original question again, 7 to 9 hours is the goal. If during the summertime you were up till midnight or 1, you can't switch it quickly. You have to start switching earlier. And most of us can adapt about 15 minutes per night to get a new schedule. Rarely I'll say to someone, stay up the whole night and start over the next day. But it's usually easier if you move back slowly, if you can.
Great advice. What are some of the strategies to boost children's immune systems naturally as they return to the classroom? Know that sleep, diet, and exercise are some of those things.
Sleep, diet, and exercise.
Yeah.
Those are the big 3.
Yeah.
Staying hydrated. When we're dehydrated, our body works a little bit harder. When we are in shape, when we do move and exercise, our immune system loves that. We do really well. Less processed foods. We just don't do as well with a whole lot of processed foods. Fiber. I also ask my patients regularly, do they poop every day? Mm-hmm. That's a good sign that their immune system and their system is working the way it's supposed to. So going along with eating well, sleeping well, and then stress reduction. We're seeing a lot of information showing how stress affects our immune system. You might ask, how is a 12-year-old stressed? And you obviously don't remember what it was like to be 12 years old, because it's not the same stress of paying bills, but it's who's talking to who, homework assignments, all sorts of things can stress young people out. Giving them ways to reduce stress is really important, whether it's reading, listening to music, taking walks. We have access to nature. Nature is one of the best ways of reducing stress.
Yeah, great point that you talk about stress. There's a lot of information about children's stress and being stressed about going to school and being bullied online and at school. So what are some of the signs of anxiety or stress in children that parents can look for so that they can help support their children's mental health?
Yeah. As a parent, we always want our kids to be healthy and happy and succeed. And we will often kick ourselves when something happens. We think, I should have seen it, I should have prevented it. So first off, parents, by just even listening to this, by taking care of your kids, you're doing a great job. You care. You want to do what's best. So remember that as you go forward. For kids, they can show it in a lot of different ways. The most obvious is going to be not doing stuff that they're interested in. So when they stop doing stuff that you know they always loved, wonder why. Start asking questions. If they stop eating their favorite food, or they start eating a whole lot more, that could be a sign of stress too. Sleep can be hard, because once they close that door to their room, you don't know if they're asleep or not. You have to assume that they are. But if you peek in every night, or you see that light under the door that they're still up, that could be a sign of either media issues or stress because they're still up, or stress caused by media, which is another thing that we see a lot of. Trust your instincts. If they're not doing, or if they're not behaving the way that you think that they should behave, you are probably correct that there's something going on. It could be you, it could be family members, it could be school, and approach it by asking questions. Try not to be judgmental. It's hard, but the more we ask our kids just to tell us openly what's going on, the more likely they will answer if we keep asking them enough times.
Thank you. And just to take that a little bit further, there's been a lot of talk about how screen time affects both learning, homework, mental health. What would you recommend that parents do with regards to screen time and activities that involve social media usage?
Probably the hardest message for parents to hear is they have to be an example. Right? So as a parent, if we're always on our device, on our phone, it doesn't matter what you say. Your kids are going to see that you are not behaving the way that you would like them to behave. So number one, parents, pay attention to your own media use, your own device use, and see if we can do better. When it comes to kids, the healthychildren.org has a great website that talks about ways to cut back on screen time. The general rule I like to tell patients and parents is for every hour on the screen, you should try to do an hour of something else, whether it's reading, exercise, physical activity. Just try to balance out life. Screens are a tool. They're not going anywhere. We're going to keep using them. And the better we can use that tool for good, the easier it's going to be. But I think what parents really do have to acknowledge and pay attention to is how much screen time they have, and set the example for the kids. Oh, another thing I like doing too, we do in our family sometimes, are media Sabbaths. So days without media at all. They're really hard to do. but it's an admirable goal to try and not use media for a whole day. Take a day off, a day of rest from media. Mm-hmm. Try it sometimes.
Bet you that's hard.
It is really hard.
What are some effective ways to encourage regular physical activity in children, especially those who aren't naturally inclined towards sports?
Yeah. Activity is always best when it's fun. If you're told go exercise, no one wants to do that. It's the rare person who exercises because exercise is fun. For most of us, it has to be connected to some purpose. For me, I'll tell you, mowing the lawn, taking care of the yard is an exercise that gives me purpose. And when I'm done, I have a sweat and I have something accomplished. So think of the same for kids. You ask them, can you get me something from upstairs? Oh, that's not what I wanted. Can you get this from upstairs? They're exercising without even knowing it. And again, here's where parents showing the example comes in. Walk with your kids, go outside, kick the ball around. Inactive kids will be active if we as parents are active with them.
Play.
Yeah, play.
This is always I think a parental place of, oh my goodness, what now? Is trying to figure out what to pack that's nutritious for lunches, right?
Yes.
Tell me.
Okay, so the easy rule of thumb is the more ingredients, probably the less healthy something is. If you can't read or pronounce what something labeled, it's probably not good for you.
Yeah.
I tell patients and parents, anything that you can fix and put together is usually healthier than anything you just open up and eat. But your question about on the go, fruit, apples, pears, people don't like them, but that is a great portable snack that you can take. Beyond that, you don't have to spend all your money on Whole Foods and other things that cost a lot of money, but you do have to be mindful of what you eat. Our body is amazing. It's really good at taking what it needs, but if you don't give it enough choices of those good things, it's going to let you know one way or another.
So true. We know that there are children that have problems with eating disorders. Can you tell us something about what parents can look for?
Absolutely. And here in Texas and probably all across the country, it's not just under eating. We pay attention a lot to kids that overeat too. There are kids who are home alone and they snack just regularly. Parents can't figure out what to do, how to make things better. So let's start first with the underweight people and people with poor eating habits, not getting enough calories. As a parent, things you can look for is, do they seem not to eat as much as everyone else? Do they play with their food more than eat it? Do they seem to count how many servings or calories or things that they're doing? But one of the biggest keys is, what is their weight actually doing? Childhood is a time of growth. If your child is plateauing, is the same weight they've been for the last 6 months, and they're thin, it's probably not just genetics. There may be something more. So that's definitely worth a conversation with your provider. When it comes to overeating, that's a little bit different, because kids, again, will watch what their parents do, and we all overeat when we're stressed. We overeat because calories are so easy to get. And the things that we have to do, again, as parents, is we provide the food. Kids aren't going to the grocery store. They will buy things at school sometimes, vending machines and all that, but it's really our role as parents to try and provide healthy, nutritious food, put out the fruit that's easy to get to, put away the things that are harder to get to. And what I tell a lot of families is, if you can make it and you can put it together, that is really the best type of food to consume. I ask patients a lot of times, what do you know how to cook? A lot of them know how to make eggs, which is great. And the more they can expand on their repertoire of food they can make, the healthier they're going to be.
And you mentioned stress, and a lot of us know about stress eating. So, how do we start that conversation if we find that there is stress in our children? And we've developed some conversation cards through a collaboration between Austin Public Health and Middle Care and Central Health that is allowing parents to have that conversation with their children. But how can we, what are some other ways that we can have that conversation with children?
It's not always possible for every family, but there's been a lot of good research that says families that have dinner together is really protective. So if you can, have that routine where everyone sits down together. They may not say much. They may just inhale all their food and then go on about their business. But kids know that there is at least the opportunity to share. And you as a parent can at least look at your kids and see, do they look the same? Do they look happy, healthy? Try to get a conversation going. Doesn't always work, but sometimes just having that routine is enough. But what's also really important that parents need to understand is kids are smarter than we think. They see the stress that we're under. They know when we're worried about bills or worried about what's going on in the world. And many kids, unfortunately, pick up on that stress and they reflect it back to us. So if your life is stressful, you have to work on reducing your own stress too. So those nature walks, those breathing exercises. And then what I tell everyone, we all could use counseling. A good counselor is like a good coach. They help you do the things that you want to accomplish. So don't let stress go inside and fester and grow. Find ways to let it out slowly and to find ways to make it better.
And seek out resources in our community, like your provider or the Trauma Recovery Center, American Youth Hospice, and other ways that we can look for other areas where you can look for help with that.
And as you say that, let me also remind people 988, because even as young as 12 and 13 sometimes think about hurting themselves. So calling and getting help is great. There's also a crisis text line that people can use. Don't feel like you're alone. There are many families who go through very stressful things, and there are resources for that.
Right. And 988 is a great resource for people in crisis, so please do take advantage of that resource. You know, in closing, I'd like to just ask you, how do we as parents equip our kids to go into adulthood and take with them those things that we're trying to do with getting them to sleep, eat, and exercise?
Yeah. Again, we have to forgive ourselves. You can do what you think everything is right, and your kids still have a hard time. You can be an absentee parent, and a kid will thrive and do wonderful things. So try to release some of that guilt and shame and blame on yourself, and know that if you love and care for someone, you're going to do the best that you can. How do you get them to do those good habits? You have to be an example. Everyone pays more attention to what we do than what we say. So try to do the right thing in front of your kids. And then talk to them, ask questions. We remember our own voice, our own words, much more than what other people tell us. So if you ask your kids to tell you something they think is healthy behavior, they're going to remember that much more than you scolding or grounding them, saying you shouldn't do that because it's not healthy. So those conversations, and as we look at our kids as burgeoning adults, we will treat them that way, because we know that the ultimate goal is for them to be independent, on their own, healthy and happy. But we also have to know we can't control that. So the best we can do is offer them our love and support and help them anytime they ask for it.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today's episode of Health Talk. Thank you to KAZI 88.7 and to St. David's Foundation for their support of this program. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. This is Dr. Desmore Walks signing off. Be well.